Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Ha, Rakakwadash Mama. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone and the elders. Double honors to my elder as well, Aharawan, Mayasha Allah, of the Lions Den Camp here in Jacksonville, Florida. And salutations to the fellow Akim, Atwafim, and children that believe in truth and sincerity. It's your brother, I thank y'all back to another lesson, and Yahweh Ratazah is edifying. And this is a quick lesson just touching the topics on how the people are starting to feel the effects of this economy. All right. The people are starting to feel and notice the effects of a Babylon being that third world country. All right, that it is. All right, it's ultimately, it's gradually coming into fruition, coming before the people's eyes. All right, they're to where they're speaking up about it. They can't just hide their head under the rock and act as if it don't exist. All right, so there's just a couple individuals complaining on it. All right.
That $80 billion that you were going to use to expand the IRS and just not charge people taxes. Crazy concept. Crazy concept. But yeah, anyways, raise your hand who's doing well. I'm just mad. I'm just fucking mad anymore. There's no reason for me to be like, yay, fucking America. Like, we're so great. We're so free. We're so powerful. I'm fucking starving. I have to live out so that my kid can fucking maybe have Pop Tarts once a month. So I'll go without fucking eating something, right? It shouldn't be that way. Shouldn't fucking be that way. We shouldn't have to go like, let's see, we haven't had meat and a long time because guess what? We can't fucking afford it, okay? Nor do we want to go down and buy the, meat glue fucking meat at Walmart that, America just thinks, that we deserve, right?
All right, you understand her view on Walmart, right? On Wally World. All right, one of the first scriptures I want to get is the book of Proverbs, chapter 29 and verse 2. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn, right? And that's why the people are in the state of mourning, man. The state of just unbearing disbelief, all right? Um, Losing hope in this place, an American dream, all right? Because the wicked is ruling, all right? According to Job 9 and verse 24, it says, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? Right? Who's ruling today? Who's ruling this whole society throughout the four corners of the earth from a physical standpoint? We know it's Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai ultimately that moves man. All right. But he ultimately ordained the basis of men to rule throughout the four corners of the earth. All right. With his blessing, which was the sword. You know, you can get that in the book of Daniel. All right, we can get that right quick. All right, so the wicked, the so-called Caucasian race, all right, self-proclaimed uh, white, right, which is a social construct, the elite of their people, all right, the elite of their people are put in this stronghold amongst the people throughout the four corners of the earth due to their demonocracy, all right, their niggardness, all right, wanting and heaping all things unto themselves, right? You know, just ultimately being the colonizers that they are. We know the Lord set them up ultimately to do his will, all right, to rule in wickedness. So that's what's going on throughout the four corners of the earth. The earth is being ruled by the wicked, all right, and the Lord allowed it so. And this is the book of Daniel, chapter 4 and verse 17. This matter is by the decree of the watchers and the demand by the word of the holy ones to the intent that the living may know, right, that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, right? He ruleth in the kingdom of men and giveth it to whomsoever he will, right? That's why you have different changes of times and kingdoms coming into place and kingdoms falling away. You know, captivities coming into play and captivity's falling away, because ultimately the only kingdom that's going to be established forever is the Lord's kingdom, the kingdom of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, and Seminole Indians, and those of the speckled bird. All right, according to Jeremiah 12 and verse 9, the Lord heritage is of a speckled bird. All right, as our people look like all the nations. All right, as we've been scattered throughout the four corners of the earth amongst all the nations. All right, so the what? The Lord kingdom, all right, the kingdom of the Israelites is gonna rule forever. All right, but what we had kingdoms that came and go because of our doings, because of us disobeying the Heavenly Father and always being having to be put back into what chastisement, bondage, slavery for punishment for disobeying the Lord, law, statutes, and commandments. All right, but this is our last captivity. All right, because this is one of the worst captivities of them all, as it has all, you know, all. Hey, it's gonna be worse than all the previous captivities, man. You know, when it comes to the famine, that's spoken of. All right, that's spoken of in the book of you can get it. It's one scripture I want to bring out is Second Ezra chapter 15, just understanding how this is what the second Egypt, right? So just as the Lord sent those same plagues on previous kingdoms before, he's going to send them again. All right. Egypt being one of them, ancient Egypt, as this is modern day Egypt pertaining to Revelations 11, verse 8. All right. This is the book of Second Ezra, chapter 15, and verse 10. Behold, my people is led as a flock to the slaughter. I will not suffer them now to dwell in the land of Egypt, but I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm and smite Egypt with plagues as before. Right. So just the as before is showing you that it's speaking on these times. All right, this future prophecy. All right, this is what the second Egypt pertaining to Revelations 11, verse 8, right? The spiritually Sodom and Egypt. So again, it says the Lord said he's gonna what? Bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm and smite Egypt with plagues as before and will destroy all the land thereof, man. All right, from locusts, swarming vegetation to filling it with rodents, rats, and all type of creepy things, creepy animals. So that's ultimately what's gonna reside here when this place is, made ground zero, the ultimate ground zero, right? Not just 9/11, but the Lord is gonna make this place ground zero by way of the missiles, the spirit of his son, Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly calls JC. All right. So again, the wicked is ruling. So that's why the people are mourning. All right. The Israelites, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, and Seminole Indians, and those of the speckled bird, by way of their father, all right, by way of their spirit, because they spirit bear witness as such, all right. When they're in rulership, the people will rejoice, but that's not so.
Because we're not worth anything. Because that's what I'm taking it as. We're just not fucking worth it. But yet we're the ones working every fucking day to make this country go round and round. But we're not worth being able to have decent fucking food or the amount of food that we need to fucking have one of our family members go without. I'm done. I'm done. I'm so done. It shouldn't be this way. And I know that it's not just this way for me. I called today because my garbage cans got picked up, right? Because guess what? Oh, couldn't fucking afford to pay the bill, So I'm like, hey, what do I have to do, to, get my garbage cans back? Like, I'm struggling. Like, I'm doing everything I can. I work hard, I can barely afford to fucking buy groceries. And she's like, girl, I hear you. Me too. Like, I feel bad, but I'm in the same boat. Like, it wasn't like, it was like immediately. Like, wasn't like, oh, it was just like immediately, like, I'm right there with you. That's fucking terrible. We're working women in America that are working our fucking asses off. And we can't afford to fucking feed our kids or ourselves. We worry about putting gas in our fucking car to get to work that's not going to fucking pay the bills or the fucking groceries to eat. I've never in my life been unproud to be a fucking American, but today I am. Today I am. Today when my kid fucking asked me for motherfucking Pop-Tarts and I questioned whether or not I could get him the one thing he asked for all month long. Fuck you. Okay? Fuck this shit. Like, we don't deserve this. We don't.
This is Amos chapter 5 and verse 16. Therefore, the, therefore the Lord, the God of hosts, the Lord saith thus, wailing shall be in all streets, and they shall say in all the highways, alas, alas, and they shall call the husbandmen to mourning, and such as are skillful of lamentation to wailing. You know, and that's what's ultimately is being done, and it's going to be more of it being done. Hey, the longer we hear, man. All right, day by day, from this point moving forward, it's going to get worse and worse because we're at the times of the end. We're at the times of ending of a thing, and better of it of an ending of a thing, you know, than the beginning, right? Because this is our way out of captivity. All right, having these people rule under demonocracy and wickedness. All right, us being separated from Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, being in these this chains of darkness, this flesh, right? So what? It's gonna lead to what? The people wailing, mourning, out in the streets, rioting, right? Because people are becoming tired. And right now, the way I'm traveling to and fro, you know, from just my day to day, been using the public transportation on the bus, and you see a lot of it, man. You get to see the people with, you know, just resentment. You know, you can see the fatigue on the people. You know, not just on a physical standpoint, but just emotional, spiritual fatigue. You know how like this can't be life, right? Because it's not. You now want to get the book of Zephaniah, chapter 1, and this is verse 10, going into the fish gates. Elder been bringing this out lately. This is the book of Zephaniah, chapter 1, and verse 10. And it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord, Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, that there shall be the noise of a cry from the fish gate, right? And an howling from the second, and a great crashing from the hills, man. You know, so everything that's on high and exalted ultimately going to be brought low. All right, but the importance in that scripture there is just speaking on the fish gate. You know, you got the trade talks. You know, they over there warring over there in the Gaza Strip, which is like the top one of the major trade routes when it's dealing with commerce and things like that. While simultaneously you have the tariffs that Trump, all right, Nero have set up and put in place that ultimately is putting it's gonna slow a lot of goods, a lot of traffic when it comes to goods down in imports here in America, to where what the more scarce something is, the more valuable it becomes. Again, a design famine, all right, ultimately to put the pressure on the people to usher in the MOTB, Revelations 13, verse 15 on down, which is the mark of the beast, the RFID hip. So it's a cry in the fish gate, you know, already with the trade talks, the tariffs, the imports and exports of goods, right? In this case, it's what imports, because America is much of a consumer than a distributor of goods, you know? It's the book of Revelations, chapter 6. This is Revelation 6 and verse 4. I start at. And there went out another horse that was red, right? Red, the crimson one, right? And power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that's Esau. Or as we brought out Daniel 4 and 17, has the Lord set up the basis of men over to rule. All right. And that's just for a little season. All right. But again, back in Daniel 4 and 17, it was just to show that the Lord could do whatever he wanted to do. He do whatever he wants to perform his will. So he, as he ruleth in the kingdom of men, since his children was disobeying, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, all right, he set up the bases of men over us. He set up these other nations over us. All right. And right now the basis of men is set up. All right, leading to what? Job 9 and 24, the earth being given to the hand of the wicked. All right, so they can do these unrighteous dealings, these unrighteous decrees throughout the four corners of the earth, so the Lord can show and magnify himself. All right, establish himself as he's always been established. All right, but declare that he's always been established. All right, and the whole world, all nations go know that. Right, but the red here is going into what? Esau, the red one, the crimson one. Right, they're not white. They're not white, as white is a social construct. Right, a color out of the crayon box, just like black. It's a social construct. It comes down to who Esau is and who's Jacob, which is the progenitor of the two main nations on the earth. All right, the protagonist and the antagonist. Right. So power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword, man. And that's all that happens here, man. Nothing but chaos, confusion, death, destruction. I did a lesson not too long ago on how a Esau, he can definitely take a spirit, all right, but he can't manifest one, right? Unless it's a demon. This is verse 5. And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, "Come and see." And I beheld, and lo, a black horse. And he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand, right? And that black horse going into what the term black, meaning dark, void, without light, wicked, which is Esau, ultimately. He's the true wicked. He's the true son of perdition. All right. And he had a what? A pair of balances in his hand going into what? That yoke, the yoke of slavery. All right, because this is how he's been ruling, and he's been given the sword because of our disobeying of the Lord, law, statutes, and commandments. We fell into this devil hands, right? To where we suffer the curses spoken of in Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 15 to 68, right? So he wants to put that yoke upon the people a second time, just like he did in the beginning of things when the Lord delivered us into his hand, right? And the falling away from the 70 AD, from the falling away from 586 BC to 70 AD, right? To now, all right. Again, that balances, all right, in his hand, that yoke, right, representing slavery, all right. He had the physical slavery of whipping the people into his demonocracy, his doctrine, his philosophy, his way of life, his religion, right? The three unclean spirits that came out of the mouth like frogs, his money, his rat race system, right? To a spiritual type of slavery, to where he wanted to try to cut you off from the Lord to save you, all right, to try and to tie the straw man to the buyer. All right, every person that has a birth certificate or a social security card, try to tie them into his new AI system. All right, which AI, his AI system is ran by what science, falsely so called, and the devil. Ball, ball them. But this is back in Revelation chapter 6 and verse 6, and I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, and tying you to the straw man, to the buyers, ultimately putting that device in you. Spoken of in Revelations 13, verse 15 on down, the RFID here. That's the stamp of it all. To where you ultimately go and take that branding of saying you love your master, in other words. This is Revelation 6 and 6, and that's those who are not listening and learning. But those who are listening and learning, we have hope that we have the mark of the Wah, all right, which is exemption, exempt from judgment, to where that mark, as far as the charagma in Revelations 13, 15 on down, is gonna miss us. It's Revelations chapter 6 and verse 6. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, right? So it's gonna take a whole day's wage just to buy a measure of wheat, right? And 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. So everybody's gonna feel this pain, this form of destruction, this hunger that's coming, this famine that's coming, except for the elect, those who have the oil and the wine, which is the knowledge, the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, the Urim and the Thummim, right? So hey, it's gonna be more crying, more people in anguish because they hate to hear the law and the word of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, the Lord, man. And I end off with this. This is the book of Ecclesiastes, and this just will all lead to people hitting the streets, all right? Just like they did in the lockdown. And it's gonna be a trap for them. Because that's where a lot of them gonna be casted away, right? By these Gurger troops, thrown in camps, right? This is the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 12 and verse 5. Also, when they shall be afraid of that which is high, and fear shall be in the way, and the almond tree shall flourish, right? The almond tree representing the prophecies, and the buds of the almond tree, they're sprouting like we in springtime. They popping off the tree in the abundance, and the tree still look full and good, right? And the grasshopper shall be a burden, right? Any little thing could tip this place over. And desire shall fail, because man goeth to his long home, right? That's the point. And desire shall fail, man. Living the American dream. You know, it was one female, if I continue on with these videos, it was the one girl, she was like, you might as well just go out there and buy yourself a treat every now and then. You know, damn saving and all that. You know, ain't gonna ever buy a house. And it's like shit, Jake already been living and thinking like that. You know? So again, the desire is failing. You know, everybody's gonna be in one playing field as far as a way of living in this society soon, right? The rat race is eventually gonna stop. The scriptures even speak on how it's gonna be no work for Egypt. The grinding shall cease. So I read Ecclesiastes 12 and verse 5 from the top again. Also, when they shall be afraid of that which is high, and fear shall be in the way, and the almond tree shall flourish, and the grasshopper shall be a burden, right? Any little thing could tip this place over. And desire shall fail, right? Because man goeth to his long home, right? All these migrants and people, they're gonna be wanting to go back to their long home. Because they go see that this place is evident for destruction. What's been going on in their homeland is ultimately coming into this place. And these people ain't ready. They're spoiled. They used to the third world country. They go notice that the third world country they come from is even better. They go back. And the mourners go about the streets, man. Right, the mourners go eventually hit the streets, and it's gonna lead to what's back in Second Ezra 15, Second Ezra 16. You know, people, ultimately having a course stand in their own actions, their own power, right? To where they're not gonna regard their kings nor princes. We'll end off with that. This is the book of Second Ezra, chapter 15 and verse 14, right? Because what it says, because of their pride, the cities are troubled. Roughly paraphrasing. But it says here in Second Ezra 15 and 14, woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh. And one people shall stand up to fight against another, and swords in their hands. For there shall be sedition among men, right? And invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their action shall stand in their power, right? Because they're all it's gonna be the people versus the people, man. You know, because even your government officials, your people who are in authority, they're people themselves. They have family to go home to and defend for themselves. All right, that's where people not will regard their kings or princes. You even had the incident out there in New Orleans to where you got some correction officers being investigated on how it allowed like 11 people, like a couple, like a lot of people, to escape from the prison, the parish there. So it's a lot going on, man. And what's not being talked about most is the economic pressures, man, the people feeling. All right, and how the Lord is in the midst of it all, man. It's going to ultimately bring the destruction and salvation to this place. Salvation for the elect and destruction for the multitude. Shalom, Habatha, and DTA until the next one.